word practice was quite striking for me, because in the last session that happened before we left for the camp, when Deveji asked you that what to do when the world calls us, you answered saying that, why don't you talk about that call? Then when we talked about Ramakrishna, he also said, if you talk about the free, you are free. And in the same way, Raman Varsha again said that it's also a practice that we keep on talking about more about all this. So it's a kind of practice that you have formed. There are two things that we have mostly discussed. Is we need to be in close contact of what we are. So, and we call it by the name observation. And the other thing is that it's also a practice of doing all this that has been mentioned here. So how exactly is how can we be in constant touch with what is happening and still do not make a practice out of it? How can these two things happen simultaneously?
Why do you need to practice? Is it not happening right now? It's like a man asking how to ask. It's like saying that one wants to learn breathing. Had you not been breathing, could you have asked this question? So practice is always happening. This is what is happening, is practice. When you remember practice, that is practice. The moment when you ask how to practice, the question is redundant because practice is already going on. The question of practice is relevant only when you forget that question. Just remember. This is the practice. You could have talked about 10 other things right now. You could have been at 10 other places right now. You're here. This is practice. What happens is that because you have missed out on something, so it appears special and worthy of attainment. You have missed out on it, not that it ever was absent. Practice is just remembrance. Practice is just attention. If you are attentive, then it is always there, always there. It is not there only when the mind is elsewhere. Even right now as I am speaking to you, what is happening is just this practice. The depth of your listening right now will determine how much more can you listen. Just as when a man learns or practices to run, the more he practices, the more he can run. Similarly, the more is your attention right now, the more you will be able to understand, listen. And then listening, understanding become such a state that they do not remain special anymore. Then you are not asking for them. You don't pay attention, things remain special. Then there is the need to form image, to chase something, to question, to desire. See, even right now, this is a very pertinent example of the various things that you said that you read. And who said that we usually keep thinking that sleep is closer, and Raman Maharshi made it clear. So this is something that comes as a new realization to her. Those of you who were attentive yesterday would remember that exactly the same thing was discussed very, very clearly just yesterday, less than 24 hours back, that Sushupti is not Samadhi. That Sushupti is just a state of mind, Samadhi is the dissolution of mind, there is no question of any similarity. So, the truth is there, but if you are not attentive, then for you it is not there. It is there, but for you it is not there because you simply didn't listen. Are you getting it? Similarly, whatever is existent is there, is simply there. It cannot be the object of a discovery. But because you have been away, because you have been identifying with this and that, because all your mind, mental energy and attention have been taken up by miscellaneous stuff, so you miss out on the truth. And missing out on the truth, remember again, does not mean that it is distant or unavailable. It's there. Similarly, take the case of what Abhishek said, that we think that Turiya is the fourth. We would have spent one complete hour just trying to dispel this, that Turiya is not the fourth. Who thinks that Turiya is the fourth? Did we not spend an entire hour just on this, that Turiya is not the fourth? But one misses out. Does one miss out because whatever is real is never there? Does it lapse even for a while? Is there even a small gap? Then why did you miss out? Why such a big miss? Why? That question is immaterial right now, because you are not missing right now. Unfortunately, that question is not asked when the miss is happening. Are you getting it? You ask a question for the truth, and the asking of question is itself the truth. You say, who am I? And that's it. You don't need an answer anymore. Because in your moment of missing, you are not asking, who am I? Are you getting it? Not clear. Just asking, who am I right now is sufficient. You don't need an answer. Because it has been ascertained now that you are here. This question itself is the proof. When you are missing and missing and missing, do you ever ask, who am I? Do you? That's practice. I remembered to ask. Now whether or not I got an answer, and what answer I got, and this and that, and that, all this is mental stuff. Words, language, concepts. Doesn't matter what is the answer you get and whether you get any answer. I'm repeating this. Just the remembrance. And even this remembrance is not merely a verbal remembrance. It is not a remembrance of 3 words, who am I? It's a remembrance. This remembrance is practice. You may in fact not ask any question. Still you may just remember, and that would even be better than asking, who am I? Just remembering. That is attention, just remembering. What else is attention? Attention does not mean that you are looking very closely at some object. Attention does not mean that all your mental energy is fixated onto that chair. What does that become? Concentration. So we are not talking about that, obviously. Attention is something else. Attention is this subtle remembrance. That's it. Remembrance of what? Of nothing. Nothing. Nothing in particular. Do you see what Maharshi does? The moment you ask him, why do we forget? He says, ask this question when you have forgotten. He says, ask this question when you have forgotten. You ask him, what is the non-self? He will say, let the non-self ask this question. He will say, let the non-self ask this question. What does this mean? This means that when you are asking, there is no question of non-self. And when you are not asking, that is the state when you have forgotten. What is inquiry? Remembering to inquire is inquiry. Even remembering to inquire is redundant. You must just say remembering is inquiry. Inquiry does not mean asking a specific question. It is not like railway inquiry. Inquiry just means remembering. Remembering what? Just remembering.
So when we are talking of remembrance, for this mind, which is more helpful? The beyond or the falseness of the body?
The beyond. Whenever you remember the world, you will have to take the world as real. Whenever you will remember the world, it will invoke a certain feeling, a thought inside you. It will take you away from silence. One has to remember the roots. You remember the truth, the world is taken care of. You remember the world, and even the world remains in disarray.
In fact, we talked about this in the first talk, and he said, start with the God and the world is yours. Start with the world and you lose even the world.
What does Lazarus remember? What does Khalil Gibran say in the title? Lazarus and his family. What does he say? Lazarus and his
Beloved.
We do not meet the beloved at any point in the story. Whom do we meet? Mother, Mary, Martha, Philip. Is there even one dialogue by the beloved? Strange. Khalil Gibran did not give an apt title. He should have said Lazarus and his family. Why didn't he? Whatever is happening under the great umbrella of the beloved. Or you could say is happening upon the foundation of the beloved. So it has to be Lazarus and the beloved, even though the beloved is not explicitly present as an object at any point. Is he there as an object? That's the self. That's Turiya. Never explicitly present, yet always there. That's also God.
For the shoot to remember the root, it must have the faculty to perceive, because perception is all it knows. So for me, to remember the beyond, it has to have a positive, something positive, which is not possible. So
does the shoot remember itself first thing? The shoot may not know the root, but does the shoot know itself or not? Does the shoot exist? Or will the shoot say that even I don't exist? The shoot exists. Show me a point where the root ends and the shoot begins. Show me a point where the root ends and the shoot begins. Show me. Is that point not merely a concept? Is it not true that the root and shoot are actually one, and the dividing mind creates a boundary that here the root ends and here the shoot begins? Just because something is beneath the soil, it cannot be seen, your eyes cannot perceive it, so you draw a boundary there. Right? Otherwise, does the root ever say that I have ended and now the shoot is beginning? Are they together, not a continuum? Are they not a continuum? So, forget the root. If the shoot knows itself, then the shoot is the root. You need not know God, know yourself.
Knowing yourself is, I am not this, I am not this.
Starts with that, because you already know of yourself in n different ways. So they get negated in the process. I am not that has nothing special or sacred about it. It's just that you are so full of n things that those n things must go. So you have to say I am not this, I am not that. If you are not full of other things, there is no need of saying I am not this, I am not that.
But I am full of things.
So even if you are full of rubbish, even if you say I am full of rubbish, yet I am. There is no denying of this. There is no denying of this. The denial pertains only to the rubbish part. So when you say I am full of rubbish, what are you denying? Rubbish. And whatever you deny, what remains fully established? I am. And that's it. No positive assertion is needed. Whatever positive is needed is already established. Without that positive I am, there is nobody to inquire. There is nobody to inquire. The inquiry itself establishes the positive existence.
because the reason I asked this question is when we say that we have to remember that in a positive sense, then that danger arises of which we were talking in the morning, that you want images, then you get Krishna, then you get Ram and all that, and then things get actually reversed.
So it's strange, na? That you want your own image. Why do you want your own image? Are you in doubt about your own being? You can be in doubt about 10 things, but would you like to deny that you exist? An image means a representation. An image is like a map of some territory. Do you need an image for yourself? You exist, right? And I am is not the thought that I am. I am is not the thought that I am, because this thought will fade away. You do not always have this thought either, even though it sits in the center of all thoughts. But let's say at the time of death, this thought will remain no more. In deep sleep too, this thought remains no more. So I am is not the thought that I am. I am is the foundation that makes even this I am thought possible. It is not personal. So don't try. You are trying as a person. And I am is not personal. There is no need to try.
But then remembrance is done by the mind.
No. Whenever the mind will remember, it will remember an object. That's why I said remembrance is just remembrance. If you will remember, then you will remember. And you will remember something of your world. Just remember. Just remember. I'll have to say this 1,000 times. Remember what? Nothing. Just remember.
सर और इसके लिए वो फेथ, वो श्रद्धा चाहिए, मतलब रिमेंबर करने में.
Just remember.
सुकरात का सर इसमें एक है कि I know that I don't know.
It's far, far deeper than that. I know that I don't know is a thought. This remembrance is not a thought. It's a rootedness. It's a presence. Just remember.
Does it mean that all neti is taken care of itself just by this remembrance?
Without this, how will you perform niti? Will the eyes say that the stone is unreal? Will the mind say that the mental objects are unreal? Will this bundle of identities say that identities are unreal?
Like you say, facts leads to truth. Can you say that observation leads to remembrance?
Facts lead to truth, and you cannot come to facts without the truth. So that is something that you must take as a default. That this leads to this leads to that, whatever. But ultimately the first cause is always the truth. That must be taken always as a default, without being said.
But when we are talking about practice, you can practice the facts or the...
You will not practice. Practice is happening right now. It is happening. It is happening. It is just happening. This is it. You ask, how do I learn? You are learning. Now where is the question of how do I learn? You are learning. Aren't you? And without learning, you couldn't have asked this question. It's happening.